I feel like there were so many times in my life where I was thinking to myself that there's something that I want to do and there's something that I want to bring to life, and I had no idea how to do that. And that was until I met Procreate. And I was able to take things like a simple tree from Canva and turn it into something like this. Design these sneakers with seamless patterns. Yes, they were not reviewed in this channel yet. Create this beautiful, gorgeous dowel from, of course, Awkward Styles. There was a full video about them. But this full dowel was actually created, believe it or not, with one stroke of a brush. And that's something that I would never have been able to do without Procreate. And I'm super psyched for today's video. I think that I was planning to do it for such a long time, especially when, you know, I found my little cubistic style double-sided pillowcases, printful. And I found so many cool things that I can now do. This is from Zazzle, as well as a shower curtain that I have not shown in this channel yet, and I haven't even opened. I really need a new shower curtain, but this pattern was done on Procreate, and it's one of my favorite things in the world. I'm seriously loving this. And of course, my iconic, well, I call it iconic, liquid art. And these were all done with Procreate, and to be honest, as much as there was a learning curve with Procreate, they were not that hard to do. And I really hope that by the end of this video, you'll feel the same way I do about Procreate and find the inspiration you need or the technique you need to launch a new print-on-demand business, add to your existing stores, or just get better at what you're already doing. Let's get started. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Mao and I teach creative people how to sell their art online. And today I'm all about Procreate, which is a video that I wanted to do for a very long time, as Procreate has been such a big part of my life in the past few months that it's insane. And of course, not just my personal life, but also my business life with my print-on-demand art, making most of it today with Procreate. For those of you who don't know, Procreate is a drawing and illustration app that only works on iPads, well, Mac devices. There is also Procreate Pocket for iPhones, but yes, you're going to have an iPad or an iPhone to operate Procreate. I am exploring a little bit more options with free softwares for iPads that also work on Android tablets, and I will keep you guys updated on that. But this video, to my non-Apple friends, I am sorry, it's all about Procreate, available only on iPad. Now, I got my iPad in September of last year. It was one of my best decisions, and at the time it seemed like the worst decision. I had just injured my coccyx bone. I could barely work. I could barely function. I had no idea where I'm going to live, if I'm going to stay in Bulgaria, if I'm going to get residency. Everything was in this huge loop and jumbled up, and finance were hard. And yet I decided that now is the time to spend 500 euros in buying an iPad and buying a pen and buying Procreate and get started. And I think that was pretty much the best decision I've made in the last few years. Believe it or not, this was my first design. The very first time I touched Procreate, this was my first design, liquefied art, and there were so many videos about that, and I have so much merch in my house with the liquify art, and it was just one of the best things that I could think of doing and that I found on doing just by simply clicking on a bunch of buttons on Procreate. And right after that, I found the symmetry line options, which landed me with this design. And I already knew the symmetry line options, kaleidoscope, more like it, from Clip Studio Paint. And I really enjoyed making this coloring page, as well as other coloring pages and mandalas. And it was a really nice practice to bring back something I knew from Clip Studio Paint into Procreate with symmetry lines. However, symmetry lines are really not just to make mandalas, but they can also make it really easy for you to create something that is symmetrical, like a person, or in my case, this cow, which became one of my most favorite designs on Procreate, made right in the first few months that I had the software without even knowing what I was doing. It was pretty insane. I moved straight up after that from my cow and doing other animals with symmetry lines to trying to hack patterns on Procreate, because if you have seen my channel, you know I'm very excited about patterns, especially seamless patterns. And this eye pattern was just One of my favorite things to do, I think I also have some of these eyes separately on stickers, but the pattern was really, really cool. And I also started playing around with pattern brushes and created digital backgrounds. So I can use them as backgrounds for so many things, whether it's iPhone cases or Instagram posts or pretty much anything, especially like notebook covers and stuff like that. So discovering the world of pattern brushes and just instantly creating a surface was insane for me. I think it was also mentioned in some of my videos, like with a video on how to create digital paper pack. It was pretty cool. And I thought, you know what? Procreate is pretty cool. What else I can do? And I remember I just randomly went to Pixabay or to Canva and found cute little clip art that I recreated within my own style, like these animals for Christmas. So it's basically a bunch of animals that I found and then combining a Christmas hat on them, changing the colors a little bit, changing pretty much the main characteristics of that drawing, but using that drawing as a baseline for something. And I feel like at this point I had to stop and say something. I was not going to an artist page, taking their art, recreating it, and selling it. I went to free stock websites that you can use those photos within your print on demand, especially places like Canva, when I can literally just use the animals as they are and recreating it from that. And I got better at it. I have to say, I got massively into watching every single YouTube tutorial on Procreate, following a bunch of people with Procreate skills and YouTube channels, as well as SkillShare, which has been a huge part of my life since I got Procreate. For those of you who don't know, SkillShare is an online platform that is dedicated for education and learning. You have a membership that you pay either on a monthly basis or on a yearly basis. I got mine on a yearly basis because it's pretty much everything I would ever want to learn in one place. And you have no ads there, you have no banners, no nothing. It's all about just learning a bunch of stuff. For me, it was Procreate mostly, but there are so many other classes on Skillshare that it's insane. And I will leave a link down below to several Skillshare classes that I personally liked with Procreate. And it's not just the class and the technique that you're learning in the class, but also a lot of teachers are giving you Procreate brushes, whether it's pattern brushes, drawing brushes, stamp brushes, to make your Procreate journey easy, to make it more possible for you to design basically a certain style. And that's how I created this llama from a Procreate Skillshare class. And there was actually a video that is all about how I made this llama, talking more about that class and more about that llama. And that was a really nice experience. And then I really started playing around with stamp brushes because it was super cool and super fun, creating these butterfly patterns and these butterflies by stamping, coloring, and turning them into patterns, as well as creating this elephant that was visible in the tutorial yesterday that was all about Zazzle wrapping paper, as well as these cute cats, again, with Procreate stamp brushes. So these were a lot of different things that I was able to create in a short amount of time with Procreate. And that's even before mentioning the fact that I discovered this whole new style that I was really into with these like cubism faces and shapes. And I really, if I'm looking around, like, yeah, I have so many things from print on demand around me in the house, but I think that the majority of them are Procreate. So in this video, I want to open your eyes to what Procreate can do for you and for your print on demand. Now, this is not a Procreate 101 class. I'm not going to show you how to have a new canvas, how to set the size of the canvas, or how to create a circle. I felt like this is a very basic tutorial that I didn't know if I had the patience of making. And also I found a really good class on Skillshare that does just all the basics of Procreate in case you don't want to, start and discover it for yourself. So this class of today, this video of today is a bit more, I wouldn't say advanced level, because there are certain things that you can do just by looking at what I did, and you don't really need to know anything. But I guess that the lessons and the techniques and the tips I want to give you guys today does require you to, well, know how to open Procreate and start a new canvas. So I will leave a link down below again to all the classes I liked from Skillshare, as well as to some YouTubers that I really do love following when it comes to Procreate. And I'm going to leave a link down below to the Skillshare one-on-one Procreate class that I found. It's actually an old class. It's from 2018. But I kind of watched it this morning just to decide if I want to do something similar. And I was like, no, she just does it so well, the teacher there, that I just go ahead and watch her class, because it's just a very thorough beginning to Procreate. It's a 1-hour class on getting to know the very basics of Procreate, and it's pure gold. What I am going to be doing with you guys today is showing you a bunch of stuff on Procreate. We're going to get a bird's eye view in a few seconds on my, Society 6 desk mat that I'm obsessed with, super obsessed with. And we're going to learn how to do really, really cool stuff with Procreate. We're going to talk about Liquify Effect. I literally wrote down the list of the things that I want to be going over with you guys today. I want to do the Liquify Effect, but also how to create a pattern from it. I want to go over brushes to create a surface, like pattern brushes, as well as clipping mask on text, which is super, super cool. I want to use stamps to make patterns. I want to use stamps to color them inside and show you basically throughout this video 3 different ways to create patterns using Procreate. These patterns, or more like seamless patterns, are amazing for print-on-demand items that are big, especially if you're selling on platforms like Redbubble, Society 6, if you have your store with Printful, where you can multiply these patterns and make them fit really, really large items. Really large. I mean, you can't really do a full bed cover duvet with a very small design, and these seamless patterns are so precious. And I guess I'm just in love with patterns. I'm also going to show you a few cool tricks about color modifications that I really, really like, and wrap this video up with a few tips from me on how to use Procreate when you're aiming it for print on demand. And with that being said, let's get our bird's eye view and introduce you to my desk mat, iPad, and Procreate. Hi guys! I'm pretty sure that you can see through the camera my in-print iPhone cover that I got. I'm going to leave a link to the in-print video down below because it's a pretty cool print-on-demand platform. But without further ado, let's just go to Procreate and get a little bit of a glimpse to my inside mess. I think I'm one of the most unorganized people when it comes to Procreate. If you've seen the segment at the beginning, then this is the pattern that I showed you guys the shower curtain on. I actually have a puzzle with this little pattern here. We have a lot of liquid art popping up. I have a print of this one, which is kind of cool. My little llama. My lion I also have printed. This one I also have printed. I have so many of these things printed, and I can't really explain how much joy they give me, but I'm gonna stop talking and start demonstrating by going to new canvas and setting up a 4000 pixel by 4000 pixel canvas, which with my iPad version, iPad size 300 dpi, gives me 12 layers maximum, which is completely enough for me. And I'm just going to create a blank canvas. Let's make it a bit smaller. And I'm going to start with the first thing I've ever done on Procreate, and the easiest thing I think to do on Procreate, which is the liquid art, which is, by the way, here on this desk mat. So I'm going to go to brushes. I'm currently on recent, showing you guys some of the recent brushes that I use, but I'm going to go to the most basic brushes that everybody has on their iPad, and I'm going to choose monoline within calligraphy. And I'm going to go to colors, and here I have palettes. So I have a lot of palettes by Genevieve. I watch her YouTube channel. She has also courses on Skillshare. I also have a lot of her brushes, and I really recommend that. Let's just pick something cool. Some of these palettes are from other teachers. And I also have certain palettes that I created myself, like the Greek coasters and Grease and Harmony. Let's do that one. Looks kind of interesting. I'm going to go here, and my palette appears here, and I'm going to click on this pink. And I'm simply going to draw a line. It actually doesn't have to be curvy at all. Let's just make a normal line. Doesn't have to be straight or nothing. And I'm going to take the color from here and drag it and drop it down. I'm going to choose another pink. Repeat the same action. And I can do this with a lot of colors. I can do this with 2 colors. I can do this with whatever I want. Let's move on to black. Drop a color. I'm even going to do, let's do another pink that's not here. But I'm going to put it here because I want to leave room for white. Now, this looks like it's white, but it actually is nothing, transparent, because we have the background. So I'm going to drop white down here. And now, as you can see, it's white. Moving back to my initial layer and thought, let's create another pink. And maybe some light blue or turquoise. Has nothing to do with it, right? And more blue. Now I'm going to go here to the yellow, make it really strong. Go to a different layer. maybe do something like this. I'm just playing around with a bunch of colors. I really don't mind what I'm doing that much. I'm going to merge these two layers together. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the adjustment tool. And here down below, we have Liquify. And here's where things get interesting. Let me just pop this here. We have different kinds of Liquify. We have push, right, left, pinch, expand, crystallize, edge, and reconstruct. So push pushes my design. If I want to twirl it right, it creates these little swerves that twirl everything to the right, or twirl it to the left. Let's just click on reset so we can have more demonstrations. Moving on to pinch. With pinch, we're basically bringing to us whatever we're putting our pencil on. And with expand, we're doing the exact opposite. We're opening up whatever we put our pencil on. Reset. Crystallize. Now this is a very interesting kind of liquefying effect. It's actually one of my favorites. It just moves everything around in this crystallizing way. And we also have the edges, which are a little bit like pinch, but I feel like less aggressive. And we can also click on reconstruct to rebuild what we've done manually if we only want to rebuild some of the things. Let's hit reset. And I'm going to actually try to do something at this point. So I'm going to twirl some things here, twirl some things here. I'm going to push freely around, something like that. And I want to make sure that I don't have small pieces. I don't know why. I don't really like having too many small pieces. Like, you know, for example, this one I don't really like, or this one. So I'm either going to expand them or make them go away. Like this and this. And now I'm done. Now for the next part, which is one way to make a seamless pattern, I am going to take my design, and with my arrow tool, I am going to resize it. Now, as I move it along, you can see I don't have any guidelines or anything, so let's just undo. So I'm going to go to snapping and turn on snapping, which in turn will snap this into a quarter of my design, which is what I want. I'm going to take this quarter and I'm going to duplicate it multiple times. And then I'm going to grab one of these and I'm going to move them to this side. Take this one, move it to here, and the third one here. Now, this is by far not a seamless pattern. And if you've seen my seamless pattern tutorials using Canva, then you would probably be able to guess what I'm about to do right now. Because I'm going to go to the first layer, which is this guy here. And I'm going to flip it horizontally. Then I'm going to go to this element here, and I'm going to flip it vertically. And then I'm going to go to this one, and I'm going to flip it both ways, thus creating a seamless pattern. And by seamless, after we pinch it all together, I mean that if I duplicate this layer multiple times, like you would probably do if you're making a larger product, it's going to expand itself endlessly. Like this. Not saying it's the prettiest one I've done. I actually think it's one of the most weirdest one I've done. And I think that in this case, if I wanted to make patterns like seamless, I would probably go with something very, very basic and very, very simple when it comes to creating my actual seamless pattern. So for example, I will take this design. I'm going to go to Liquify and I'm going to move this around a little bit. I'm going to twirl a little bit here. And then I'm going to take this design, duplicate it 4 times, make this bit a quarter, take this bit a quarter here and flip it. Take this bit a quarter here and flip it twice. And take this bit, place it here and flip it like this, and create a pattern that is, I think a bit more of a minimalistic style than the mess and the chaotic jumble that was the previous turquoise one. I don't know what I was thinking. But this, as I said, is one of my favorite things to do. Now, another cool thing that you can do with Procreate is using brushes that are not just brushes like this, because we have several brushes that are used for paintings, that are used to write down, used to draw, used to doodle, but we also have a lot of surface brushes within Procreate. So for example, if I go to texture brushes, I have here wood, which literally draws wood. The stronger I click on it, the stronger the design is going to be, and the wood is basically going to go away. But if I hit on it pretty lightly, I'm going to end up with a wooden surface. Now, there are so many of these cool patterns, like for example, this Victorian pattern. Be careful not to lift your pencil, because the minute you do, it starts creating it all over again. We have the cubes pattern, which is one of my favorites in Procreate, like all-time favorite brush. And I think I did a tutorial on creating 1:1 ratio art using some of these elements, mostly because I think that they're really fun to create any kind of an abstract painting with them. And of course, I can also take this abstract painting and later turn it into a seamless pattern with the exact same technique that I just showed you with our liquefying effect. I'm not saying it's the best one, but it's kind of cool. We also have other brushes that come with Procreate, like the water pattern. Let me just add another layer. Like this one that creates basically, well, water. To me, it actually looks like cracked ground, but water is fine. And I also have a lot of brushes for you guys that I actually use to create so many cool things that are available on matetribe.com. And these, if you guys remember, I showed you at the beginning a notebook. This is by simply moving my pencil, recreating this within seconds. There are a lot of other cool patterns that you can use for so many different things within Print on Demand, whether you want to design a notebook or a pillow or any kind of design, and they're actually really fun to use. I kind of like combining them into this abstract creation of some sort. For example, I'm taking some of these. I'm constantly moving my design to create different, I don't know, trigger points or entry points to the design, different anchor points to this design, and I kind of like what comes out of it. Let's add a little bit of plaid to the mix. Maybe something like this. Let's get another layer, do it on the same side, and take it down behind it. It is kind of fun when you start playing around. I can play around with Procreate brushes and patterns forever. This is too small. Let's make it bigger. Another one of the pattern brushes. And let's go with diamonds. It's also one that I really like. And as I said, we can also transform this design into a seamless pattern. I feel like I'm repeating the seamless pattern thing more and more and more, but the fact is that the more you practice something and the more you look at it, listen to it, the more chances you have of, well, getting it in a way. Let's just flip this around. And last but not least, yep. And this is a pattern made completely with brushes. Of course, you don't have to make patterns that are collages of brushes. If you like to create any design using one of my brushes as they are for print on demand use as is, you can simply do something like this. And there you go. Now, a really cool thing that I want to show you with Procreate with these designs is actually relating to color. So, you know what? Let's take one of these plaid options. Let's take this one and find ourselves a nice blue color. Awesome. I am going to color this. Let's put it on an angle. That will be nicer. And do something like this. Now, once I draw this, there are so many things that I can do to change this design, this color, without recreating the pattern. So let's just duplicate this design and choose one of them. And I'm going to go to, again, to Adjustment Tools and click on Hue, Saturation, and Brightness, where I can saturate or unsaturate my design and play around with the color palette. So I can literally stop here, export this, save this design, go back, change it again, save this design, go back, change this again, save this design, and I have all of these backgrounds instantly from just one background. Now, if I want to make it even more interesting, let's just remove this and go back to our original blue. I'm going to go to the selection tool, and using the freehand option, I'm just going to doodle something here and use the feather to open it up. Now, not touching the selection tool again, I'm going to go to Hue, Saturation, and Brightness. And this will change the hue within the scope of what I just drew, which is a pretty cool option when you think about it, to create something that looks like this. And let's try to pattern it, because I feel like I'm turning everything into patterns these days. It's kind of my thing. Let's see how it looks as a seamless pattern. Wait. I think I like it. It looks really weird. I think I like it. I don't know about you guys, but I really think I like it. I'm dying to see how it's going to look on some really big products. I think also for duvet covers, it's going to be pretty awesome. Now, one other cool thing that you can do with Procreate, and let's do some importing. I actually made some text using Canva because I don't like the text option on Procreate that much. And I imported it into my iPad as a PNG file with transparent background. So I'm here on the wrench tool, add and insert a photo. Yeah, there is a lot of stuff here. I'm pretty sure it's one of these. I'm not sure. Let me just, oh no, it's one of these. Okay, so I had here for a second, I was seeing them. I have here Be Brave, Taking My Time. These were all also in the May bundle box. So you can go ahead and use them as much as you want as well. Check out this one, do it for yourself. I believe in me. You know what? Let's select this one. And I'm adding this design, which is white on white, so I can't really see it, but it's here. Now what I can do is I can grab one of these designs, put it on top, and create this one as a clipping mask. Now, when I click on clipping mask, I basically tell the software that this layer, whatever is on it, will only be visible on what is on that layer below. So in this case, this will create the layer above the pattern on the I Believe in Me, which now is really hard to see because the background color is white, but I can change it to black, which will make it a bit easier to see. But maybe that was not such a good example for something to be called a clipping mask, so I imported a new layer that was automatically a clipping mask, and I'm going to do it manually myself. I'm going to change my background color to something a bit brighter, so I can see better the contrast. And I'm going to go to my brush tool, and I have here so many cool brushes, so many cool pattern brushes that I really do like. I also have some pattern brushes in my floral set, also included in the bundle of Procreate brushes. And I'm going to sample this color. Cool trick, huh? And I'm going to slightly go over here, coloring this. It's a bit too small. Let's make it bigger. I have no idea if it looks good. I don't think it looks good. Maybe I'm just going to color the word in. I'm going to choose a different one with a slightly different color. This is too small. Yep, this is my pattern. Color the word me. I actually like this one. I actually think I'm going to color the rest. Just going to be careful not to disturb the in. And again, if I remove the background color or change it up to something dark, it will be a bit more visible. Obviously, you can do a bunch of other stuff that would be so much cooler than this, but I just thought that this is really a cool option to do with your clipping mask on text. Now, another cool thing that I can do with my text, which is this one, let's say I designed a notebook cover that is this design. Notice that this design looks a lot darker than what we designed just because the background color was white, which is also a cool way to play around with your patterns. Let's say I'm going to use this on a Zazzle notebook, for example. So I might want to expand my pattern a little bit more because I want it to be a bit more visible. Like I want more of it to be on the notebook. And in this case, I don't have to flip anything over because I already created a seamless pattern. So I don't have to change the direction of anything because it's, well, already expanding itself. I do like the fact that it has this dark background, and I'm going to put in the Believe in Me, make it smaller, and place it in the center. It's pretty much invisible now, so I have a few options of things I can do. I can go to this layer here, and I can choose my selection tool, basically surround this, feather it away, go to my hue saturation, and make it darker, and even black and white if I wanted to. Or make it brighter if my text was dark, or change the color scheme a little bit just behind it. Oh, this is so trippy. This is so trippy, and this would be one of my designs. There are so many cool things that you can do just with these ideas of clipping masks and creating patterns, but I want to move along to using stamps to make a pattern. And with that, I'm also going to show you a bit of a tip in advance about, well, using Procreate for print on demand, because if I want to just use Procreate to create cool stuff, that's fine. But what happens if I want to design a Zazzle wrapping paper? So as we learned in yesterday's video, Zazzle wrapping paper as a roll-up is not a 1:1 ratio block repeat. The size of basically the block was more like 5400 by 4500. So that's the size that I'm going to use here to create myself a wrapping paper for Zazzle. And I'm going to do something really, really simple. I'm going to use stamp brushes. So I also have here May Doodle stamps. So these are kind of cool. And I also have more stamp brushes in my floral set. And stamps are pretty much, well, stamps. Every time you tap your pencil, you create a stamp. You create the same basic shape that is in the stamp. You can play around with the size of it. Now, while working with stamps, I think it's really important for you guys to work in different layers, because if I were to work on the same layer, I won't be able to grab just this design and flip it around and turn it over and change the size of it, because those two would be connected. Clearing up my drawing board, let's think what I want to do and what I want to basically put on my wrapping paper. So I have here some flowers. I have here some ladybugs. Ooh, this one is kind of cute. Let's go with red for ladybug. Let's make it bigger. And there are several techniques, again, to create seamless patterns. I'm going to teach you one that is very simple. I put the ladybug here. Let's make it the biggest option. And I'm putting it in the center. Yes. Now I'm going to take this ladybug and I'm going to duplicate it 4 times. And then I'm going to take one of these and I'm going to put it in the corner. And you can see here we have these dots that are representing the center lines of the design. I'm basically putting a quarter of this design here. And I'm going to release it. Now, one thing important to remember with Procreate, it's really not like Canva, because if I had this design and I put it, now it's gone. Like whatever was not on the canvas gets deleted. So mind you with that. Let's move on to the next layer and do the same thing with this corner. And move on to this layer, shrink up my canvas a bit, move it to this corner, and move it here. And I'm going to merge all of these together to create a seamless between our edges. I'm going to add a new layer simply because I want to create my ladybug again, and I want to be able to, well, move it around. And I'm not sure I want the color like this. Maybe a black one. No, let's keep another red one. Maybe slightly thinner, and snap it here. I'm going to move this one to center and maybe flip it to the other side. I'm going to merge these two together, and I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm just going to duplicate this 4 times, dragging each of my layers, basically creating a quarter of their size. And I don't need to flip anything over because I made sure that all my corners meet up in a perfect seamless way. I'm going to pinch all of these to merge these layers together. At this point, I can also add a few things if that's what I want to make it a bit more interesting, or I can choose to expand it a bit more to have a bit more visibility or size on top of my actual Zazzle wrapping paper design. I'm really loving this. I am really loving this. And I think it's one of the things that I really like the most about stamps is that someone created something really cool and you can use it endlessly within patterns or with different techniques. For example, let's just remove this and find a new layer. Let's go with black and choose a different stamp here. I have this stamp, which is okay, which is kind of cool. And with this stamp, we're really going to go nuts. So I'm going to activate something here that is called reference. And reference basically goes like this. I'm on a new layer, a different one. I'm going to grab a color and I'm going to drop it. And it's going to drop it within the lines of the reference layer. So I'm going to drop it here. I'm going to create a different layer. And I'm going to use a different color, like yellow, for the text. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I want to work on these colors separately, regardless of the original stamp. So I'm going to look over this blue area. I'm going to add a layer, clipping mask, and choose my blue, make it lighter, go to my brushes, and this time I'm trying to think what I want to do, what I want to use. Maybe the plaid. Ooh, this is actually kind of cool with the plaids, you know? We also have the grunge stripes, which is also one of my favorite brushes. I think it took me like an hour to make the grunge brush, but it was kind of fun. With the OK, I'm going to also add another layer above it and clipping mask. And I'm going to go back to that yellow, maybe choose something a bit more vivid. And I don't think I'm going to use any of these this time. Oh, maybe the dots, actually, now that I think about it. Let's do some polka dots. Oh, too small. And too big. Perfect. I'm just not sure I dig the color. So pick something a bit bolder. Make it smaller. Ooh, I like this one. I actually do like this one. And here I created OK. I'm going to group all of these together, not grouping the original one, and I will duplicate my layers. Let's turn these off, merge these two together, turn these on, merge them together, and I'm going to go to this layer, eliminate reference because I don't need it, and I'm going to go to my adjustment tool and change the color scheme completely, which gives me two very different OKs for this pattern. And I am going to duplicate this OK 4 times, send each piece of them to a different corner. Yep. Oh, what happened here? Grab it. Yep. Merge these. Take this layer. Turn it to this side. Merge these. Duplicate till full. Minimize to a quarter. Don't forget, you need to have your snapping on, otherwise it's not going to adjust itself exactly in the center, and you're going to end up with a bad pattern. And this would be another pattern that I can use for pretty much anything. Or I don't even have to use this as a pattern. I can just use the OK designs on a shirt. And there you have it, a design that can be used for so many products. using stamp brushes, pattern brushes, clipping masks, effects, adjusting the saturation and the hue, and of course creating a pattern, which is one of my favorite things doing on Procreate. And I feel like there are so many things that I can do on this platform. I really feel like there's so much to say and so much to be done. Let's just finish it up with something adorable. Let's go with 5,000 pixels by 5,000 pixels, which gives me 6 layers, and show you something a little bit different, creating patterns with stamps or with your own designs. And for this case, I'm going to use my floral set. I'm going to use some of these cute flowers or even just my leaves. So I have here leaf 1, and I'm going to choose this color for my leaf and stamp it. I'm going to add a layer above it, call it a clipping mask, choose a different color, and I'm going to go to my patterns and, I don't know, bring this leaf a little bit to life with a bit of a different vibe to it. Maybe something like this. No, feels weird. Maybe something like this. Let's give ourselves, yeah, something very bright, and merge these two together. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a fixed background that follows me around, because that's the easiest thing to do with this type of pattern that I want to show you. I'm going to try and find a background that, oh, I really like this one. I'm going to also duplicate my leaf so I can save it for later, and I'm going to take the leaf and the background and pinch it along. I'm going to duplicate the leaf and the background, and I'm going to take the above layer, the one here, and I'm going to move it to the middle, exactly to the middle. And I'm going to take the bottom one, moving it exactly to the middle as well, and pinching those together. Now I'm going to activate this design, duplicate it so I won't lose it, and with the adjustment tool, I am going to try and maybe flip it over, flip it to the other side, or even make it smaller, like this. Let's duplicate this, move it around a bit more, like that, and pinch these together. Now I'm going to duplicate this layer again, and I'm going to take the top one, move it up, and the bottom one, moving it down. This is the third technique for seamless patterns. It's kind of a cool one, I think. This is the first one I actually started with. I'm going to take this one again, duplicate it, take this piece, make it smaller, place it here, pinch these together, and for the last time this time, doing a side-by-side design, pinching these, activating the last one, and adjusting it here. I don't think it's perfect. Let's maybe flip it over a little bit. Yeah. Now I'm going to pinch this together. And now I can expand it. Obviously, I can still keep the pattern this way. This will be my seamless pattern. But to make sure that it's working, as well as to give myself a larger piece to work with, I will create this pattern from using stamp brushes and a different technique. And I feel like there's so much more that I want to say about Procreate. There are so many things that I can show you. There has been several videos already about Procreate in this channel. I will leave a link to those down below. And I feel like I'm ready to sort of sum up this video and give you some awesome tips. I just want to show you real quick some cool stuff that I did. And this was basically done with my own oval brushes, one on top of the other, as well as this design, and these are seamless patterns as well. I'm really into patterns. I don't know if you've noticed. I think that patterns just make our life better, and these were all made using a combination of these techniques, using the brushes, using a pattern, and using the select tool with hue and saturation. I'm really proud of them. And with these designs looming in the back, I'm reminding you again, if there's anything you want me to focus to make a full video just about that one, please let me know in the comment section down below. But I'm going to stop yapping now and send you back to, well, me for last tips using Procreate for your print on demand. And we're back to me. And I feel like at this point I have to say something like, if you like this video and found this content useful, please hit the like button down below, because every time you do, it really does, believe it or not, help my channel. And subscribe to my channel if you are not yet subscribed. Before we get to the tips that I want to leave you with, I would really love to know what resonated most with you. What technique or system felt like, okay, this is something I want to focus more on. This is something that I see myself doing. And I would also like to know what other Procreate tutorials you'd like me to make for you. I am reminding you that there are so many brushes, stamps, and patterns in my new bundle, my new brush bundle for Procreate creators on maytribe.com, and you can go ahead and check it out. There will be a link to that down below, as well as a link to the May bundle box and all of our bundle boxes, which I kind of used a little bit within this tutorial, and all of these are for commercial purposes, even as is with print on demand. So it's kind of cool, and I kind of feel like, you know, we're growing into this community of creators who adapt the same elements but give it their own style and their own vibe, and it is pretty awesome to see this. The few tips I want to leave you with before I'm finishing up this very long video that I enjoyed making so much are this. Number one, Procreate is a learning curve. Isn't everything like Canva and Clip Studio Paint and Redbubble and TeePublic and everything we do in life has a certain learning curve? And I feel like the more you spend time on Procreate, the more you're going to get it, the more you're going to explore and just click on buttons. I mean, it's not going to explode. If you're just having a fresh canvas and you don't know what you're doing, just click on all of these options. The majority of the things that I learned how to do on Procreate, I learned myself by trying to click on buttons. And yeah, you might need some tutorials, but it's not going to help you unless you actually try to explore and do things yourself. The second tip I would like to give you is about these tutorials. It's I remember at the beginning, I was looking into these, anyone can draw this tutorials, and they were doing something amazing. And she was doing it so fast, and every line she made was so perfect. And I'm like, I can't do this. I can't do this. I was severely judging myself, and I feel like that has been some of the difference between watching YouTube and taking Skillshare classes, because somehow I felt like everybody on YouTube is trying to make everything look so easy and everybody can do this. And on Skillshare, they're like, okay, so this is not going to be easy and you might not make it perfect, but it doesn't have to be perfect because art is art. And at the end of the day, when you're looking at a tutorial of someone doing something, try to not just make what they're doing, try to also think, you know, what is my technique in all of this? What is my system? Because I can tell you that I took so many lessons or so many personal experience from a class that taught me how to make one flower that I ended up making so many other products from that have nothing to do with that flower or that style. And combining different techniques that I learned in various tutorials, combining different brushes, it just opens you up the more you have, which leads me to another small tip, which is to stay organized. The way that I don't. I'm a bit disorganized when it comes to my Procreate stacks. You can stack things on Procreate, basically creating folders for your files. You can name every file, which I always forget to do. The one thing that I have been sort of consistently good at doing lately is to remind myself what brush was I using. I mean, come on, you're having this wonderful inspired moment and you're creating this really cool design, and then you look at it a few days later and you want to create something similar to go along with the collection, but you're like, I don't remember what brushes I used or what was the size of the brush, like the thickness of the brush. I have no idea. So one thing that I do in some cases where I feel like this is something I'm going to want to develop, I literally write down with my handwrite on the canvas what brushes I used, like with this elephant, for example, right here, that I know basically the size of the brush that I use, what brush was it, and the opacity in certain cases. So staying organized is definitely important. Another tip that I want to give you, and that would be, I think, the most targeted one for print on demand, is to not only work with these collections and colors and be organized, but also to understand the size of what you're going to need before you're making stuff. I mean, yes, it's nice to play around. It's nice to create things that are a bit small or a little bit, you know, for yourself, because it's easier, because the brushes are fitting it better and there's more layers. But at the end of the day, if you need something to adjust itself to something else, if I want to design a notebook, or if I want to design a seamless pattern for something large or a t-shirt, I'm going to be using different sizes of canvases, different techniques, different colors maybe. You know, Procreate also has the option to go with CMYK, which is pretty cool. So just like I showed you now with wrapping paper for Zazzle, you need to remember and you need to think ahead what you're going to do with this pattern, because if I were to take a 1:1 ratio seamless pattern and put it on the roller, like on the roll-up wrapping paper of Zazzle, it won't fit. It won't create a seamless and unique vibe to that. It won't be seamless on that product. So it's something that is important to remember. And again, you can go ahead and watch the wrapping paper video from yesterday. I'm also going to leave a link down below to a bunch of other videos that I did mentioning Procreate or using Procreate. Most of them were not done with my little toy. So the filming angles were kind of weird, but I think now there's going to be a lot more Procreate tutorials and Clip Studio Paint, because a lot of people have asked. I do want you to know that Procreate is definitely a learning curve, and I was not as good at that when I started. There's definitely a lot to learn, but I can tell you that with the products that I have here, the products I showed you at the beginning, it's really been an amazing ride, and I'm super pumped that I got Procreate and an iPad. I think it was my smartest business investment ever. And I'm pretty psyched about this, and I hope that you enjoyed it as well. If you have any of your own Procreate tips or tricks, you can leave a comment down below in the description and let me know. Or if you have any questions for me about any of the techniques that I used, any of the courses that I'm taking, or any special or specific requests for videos coming up ahead with Procreate or with other softwares. But with that being said, that was it for me for today. Thank you so much for watching, and as usual, I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!